He said, congratulations, Cathy. He's like, you've officially become the best manager in all-time history in our company. And he goes, keep it up. You're going to burn yourself to the ground. And I just was kind of shocked by what he said. And then I was like, well, I'm already feeling that. And he said, he's like, if I can let you in on a little secret, or he goes, try this on for size. He goes, he's like, a lot of, high achievers, especially when you're young, you take pride in being the best at everything. And he goes, why don't you try this on and shift to being the best teacher of everything? He goes, if you really embrace that, he's like, you'll change your life.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast. I'm your host, Matt Drinkon, and today we have what I would call kind of a blast from the past. I have the real sincere honor and privilege of having a discussion with someone named Cathy Christen. I knew her half a life ago. We were selling Cutco knives together in different states, and to reconnect with her now and to see everything that she's done, all the people that she's impacted. I think you're in for a real treat today, my friends. So buckle up for this episode with my friend Cathy Christen. So I'll just introduce her. Before I introduce her, let me just read a couple things about her. She's a co-founder of GoBundance Women. And if you're a listener, you've heard that I've had several leaders at GoBundance Women on recently. So Cathy is a co-founder of GoBundance Women. She's also someone that's been the founder of Elevated You and Empower X Consulting, where she is empowering female leaders to build thriving businesses while reclaiming their personal lives. And I'm hoping we're going to get a little look under the hood here of how those companies and that mission came into be, because she's got an amazing story. And the last time that I saw her, for the record, last time I saw Cathy must have been about 15 years ago or so, when we were at a wedding together. We weren't together, but we were there. And I remember seeing her at the wedding with our mutual friend, Matt and Jamie King got married. So it's a real pleasure to have her here. Let's welcome her. Cathy, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. It is so great to be here. Super excited. And it is so amazing to see. Like, I love reconnecting with a lot of our old Cutco family and just seeing like where life has taken and the impact that's, continuing to happen in so many different industries all over the world. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you today. So thank you.
Yeah, real pleasure. It's like she didn't drop a beat. Like, just not even one step lost. She's picked up steps. Like, she looks younger and more energized than I've ever seen her before. And what you don't know in the background, she's got a 4-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-year-old. I mean, she's got all kinds of family here, and there's no bags under her eyes. She's ready. She's ready to go. I mean, I'm just so impressed and excited. So we'll start with a softball of a question. Who is Cathy Christen? Cathy?
Oh, man. Like, where do we start? Just, I guess, a little quick background. Cathy is, right, someone that grew up very low income. We had 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment growing up, but always felt loved, blessed, and so supported. I had the blessing of having parents that poured life into me and constantly said I could do anything. And it wasn't until we were blessed by a series of things to be able to go to a private school for middle school. But that blessing for me also was a blessing and a curse. It was the first time that I saw that maybe I didn't belong. Maybe I didn't have access to the tools and resources that would help me be successful. And it was the first time I really experienced self-doubt. And the possibilities ahead of me and feeling less than those that were around me. I remember this in 6th grade. And I always worked really hard in school, got great grades, all the things. And I remember I was 14. And this is like really where like my life has come from. And I always being younger, I wanted my parents at all the things, and sometimes obviously they were working. We needed money for this, or we didn't, they didn't have time because they had to work because we had to pay for this. And so it was always like money and time. And I was like, those are the things I want when I get older. Like, I want, to not worry about money, to have financial freedom. And I want the time freedom, to do what I want, with whom I want. And that became really prevalent. But I remember being 14 and our volleyball practice had been canceled. My girlfriend's mom, didn't work, or I thought she didn't work because she was always everywhere. And Carly's mom, we talked to my mom and asked if I could, come over to their house until my mom was out of work because we didn't have practice. And that was approved, which was super exciting because I never got to do things like that. And I remember going to Carly's house. And when I got there, her dad was home. And this was like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And I was like so confused. I'm like, how is your dad home? Like, how is your mom home? What time is it? Like, it was so confusing to me. And I said, how are both your parents home? And she said, oh, they have their own business. Like my dad is an architect, my mom is an accountant. And I remember that day going, I will have my own business because that meant I could be there for my family. I could be there for my kids, right? Fast forward to 2019, when I was 19, 2002, started selling Cutco, had tons of success there, and really started learning about personal development and, setting big goals and going after them. And that was really neat. Moved up very quickly with Cutco. And then by 2007, I was 25 and I had achieved everything I thought I wanted. We were number one in the company for this $250 million company. We had broken the all-time record for a year sale by August. We were set up for a pretty pretty phenomenal year. But Matt, I hated my life. I was like, seriously? I was like, I dreamed of being at this place, to have this kind of money, to have this, like all these things, but I was so burned out. And my relationships had suffered because I had become a workaholic chasing success. My health had suffered. I mean, all these things. And I was just at a pivotal point where I remember that August, I said, okay, I went to a pastoral leadership conference with my best friend, Lisa, thinking it's time for me to transition and focus more on like ministry. And when I went, the whole theme of that conference that year was lead where you are. And, long story short, once again, like I remember just really feeling like God was like, I need you here. Like, I need you to stay here. There's work for you to do here. And I did. And I'm still there. I still support Cutco 23 years later. It is a passion of mine working with youth. I feel like if we want to change our world, we get to impact our youth because they're the future leaders. So I love that. I have a consulting company. We do a lot of business coaching. I have a partner that we do women-owned businesses specifically, and then elevated you with my spouse, and then help found GoBundance Women, which has been amazing. And I'm sure we'll get to all that. But so a woman on a mission to help people have time and freedom and really show them how they can have it all. That is Cathy Christen.
Wow. Okay. There's so much to unpack. This is amazing. And I think you just laid the tracks here for my line of questioning, because you're someone that at a young age, you didn't grow up with abundance of financial resources, but it feels like you grew up with an abundance of like heart resource, like you had a loving family.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I feel that we have that in common. So abundance of love in the family, and not a lot of financial resources. And then you got the bug. You saw at 14 that you wanted time and money, and you went to work to get it. And by the time you were 25, 11 or 12 years later, 25, you had achieved a lot of these things, but you were burnout. And that's kind of what I would love to talk about, that challenge, because between the age of 25 and today, which, by the way, you still look 25, but that's a different story.
Thank you.
So between 25 and today, you have figured something out about this burnout. Because you don't look burnout at all right now. And that's no BS. You look amazing. Your energy is flowing, and you've got multiple businesses. You've got a family. You've got all the reasons that you could be burnout, but somehow you figured something out. So can you take us to, maybe it was 2007, when you were at the lowest part, when you were just the most burnout and you were questioning? Can you take us to that moment and just talk a little bit about what did that feel like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I to rewind just a little to 06. In 2006, I actually lost my best friend in the whole world, who was also my cousin, who we grew up like twins. We were 2 months apart. He had a brain aneurysm and passed away unexpectedly. And I remember not allowing myself to deal with grief and just getting more laser focused in work and keeping myself busy. And I think at that time, I was like, I'm going to do this for him. I'm going to show what I can do. And it was always, I think being young, especially as a female in business, it's like proving yourself, proving the haters wrong, and really working hard. But a year later, here I am, August of 2007. And I just remember bawling my eyes out, and I was at an event for our company, and everyone's congratulating. Oh my gosh, you already passed $1 million, and it's August, and everyone's congratulating, and I just had like this dead stare. And I remember we were talking about Scott Dennis earlier. Scott just like, "Are you okay, Cathy?" I was like, "I'm not okay," and I was just questioning it. I'm like, is this success? Like, I've accomplished professionally these things financially. I was earning close to $500,000, Matt. Like, it was nuts. Like, I never thought, especially growing up low income, that I could be somewhere near that, right? And I'm like, what the heck? Like 400 plus, I'm 25 years old. Like, this is crazy. Like, I thought I'd be like on top of the world. And I was questioning everything. I'm like, have I alienated everyone that loves me? Like, my siblings, we weren't speaking, regularly. Like, my dad and I had a strained relationship for a while. Stuff had happened at home, and I just kind of like left everyone behind. And I really started thinking about, I remember thinking like, if this is success, I don't want it. Like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go live in another country. I'm going to go do mission work. Because I was just so empty and I was unhealthy. I was tired. And you're right. Like, now I have 3 kids. I have 4 or 5 businesses. And I feel more energized and excited, than I did before, and I love the schedule, and, we'll talk about stuff, but like, it's just very intentional plan. And I remember 2007, after that huge year, it was January of 2008. And I don't know, you remember President's Banquet, right? For the top managers of the fall. So I'm checking in Las Vegas to check in for my room. And Justin Donald, I don't know if you remember him, who's now the lifestyle investor.
Today, yes. Yes.
Yeah. So Justin's checking in right next to me, and I look over at him, and Justin's a Caucasian Chicago boy. Okay, I'm Puerto Rican. He was tanner than me. Okay, he was so tan. He looked so vibrant, and I was like pasty yellow. I looked like I was so tired.
Oh.
And I'm like, how is this white boy tanner than me right now? Sorry for everyone out there. But he looks over and he said, congratulations. He said, congratulations, Cathy. He's like, you've officially become the best manager in all-time history in our company. And he goes, keep it up. You're going to burn yourself to the ground. And I just was kind of shocked by what he said. And then I was like, well, I'm already feeling that.
Yeah.
And he said, he's like, if I can let you in on a little secret, or he goes, try this on for a size. He goes, he's like, a lot of, high achievers, especially when you're young, you take pride in being the best at everything. And he goes, why don't you try this on and shift to being the best teacher of everything? He goes, if you really embrace that, he's like, you'll change your life. And I just looked at him and nodded my head, and I was like, thanks. And he was, one of my early mentors and really close friends since 2004. And I just took a deep breath, and he goes, just think about it. Right. And he walked away. And like that little interaction at the front desk of the Bellagio literally changed my life, because it was true. Younger, I was like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do, and then it was like, how can I be the best teacher of things? Can I take more pride in developing people to be as good or better than me? And that shifted. And that next year, we did what we had done almost in a year. Like, we did in the summer, like 1.1 million, which had never been done before. And I had so much fun. And everything around me was just flourishing, So it was, we can check wherever you want to go. But yeah, it was really looking inward and going, wow, like, I'm like, I've sacrificed everything that is important to me. My schedule, if you said, let me look at your schedule to see what's important, it sure as hell would not have reflected anything having to do with family or church or music or, all these things that were important in my life that just weren't there. I was just working 12, 16 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So pause for our listeners here. We just heard a real nugget of wisdom, a moment of inflection. I call this the turn, where Cathy's about to go from burnout and pastier and whiter than me to success, like real success, and be able to find that harmony inside. And it came from an inflection point of a question from our friend Justin, when he said something to the effect of, keep things up, you're going to burn yourself to the ground. And then, how might you shift into being the best teacher? Right. So Cathy makes the shift and then something happens. So can you take us back to what happened post-conference that might have led to this re-energized Cathy, more record results? Like, what happened from that point going on?
Yeah, I think the first thing was a decision to change, like you have to decide. Like if you keep going on autopilot, I mean, it just, we all know, like you can just keep doing this and years or decades can pass and you're like, what the heck? What year is it? What time is it? What just happened? And so, for me, I think it started with the decision. I was like, I want that. Like, I want to love my life. I want to travel. Like Justin was in Costa Rica for a couple of weeks before he had come to Las Vegas. And I said, I want to be able to do all these things. And I don't feel that I could step away and my business will continue to run. Right. And, but in addition to that, I think the next thing was really the introspection aspect of thinking, if I die tomorrow, like what would I most regret? And I think that had come from just losing my best friend. And I was just like thinking about like my funeral and what would people say about me? And am I okay with that? And at that point, it would have been like, Cathy's awesome, but she's a freaking workaholic who doesn't really give time to her friends and family or anything that's important to her. And that was a dagger to my heart to even think, because all I had ever done was to like want to make my family proud and, set up my future family and, all these things. But I had to really look in and think about what is important, right? Like what makes me feel joy? Like what makes me feel alive? What are my greatest gifts and contributions that I'm not using, right, to their potential? Because that was something in college when I was asked, what's your dream job? Well, first answer was international food taster. But second was, I was like, I want to get paid to taste food. But close second was maximum potential finder. I feel like God's given us all so many gifts and talents and, things inside of us. But they stay there if we're not put in the right environment for growth, right? It's like these seeds of possibility. And I talk about this in my book. And if you put those seeds, like if I left them here on the desk, they would stay seeds. But that same seed in the right environment and nourish can grow into this amazing life force with oxygen and fruit or, whatever it produces. And I think that's how we are as humans, that, if you in the wrong environment, like you don't grow into your full potential or could even wither away. But in the right environment, it's amazing. And so it was like, what makes me come alive? What makes me shine my brightest? And really started thinking about that. And I said, I want to, I think that the next thing for me was mentors and models, right? And Justin was one of those for me. And he has been for the past 2 decades. And, I had some that I paid for. I had some that I got for free. But really seeking after, okay, who is living the life that I want to live, right? Who can I model? And I had learned that early on through Tony Robbins and, going to all these personal development events of like, really modeling success. Like they've already done it. Like, what are they doing? What can I copy? Right. And I think that was really huge for me, even early on. I mean, I remember I said when I went to that private school in middle school, was the first time I felt less than. But I remember it was a mentor. And at that point, it was my best friend's father who just said, like, you can have anything you want if you're willing to work for it,
Yeah.
And don't get caught up in that these other individuals here have more resources, have more connections, have more, like, don't get caught up in that. Like, what do you want, right? Get clear on that and then go after it. Like, make a plan of how to get it and then go after it. He's like, if you do that, you'll be unstoppable. And at that time, I had to borrow his belief in me because I don't know that I believed that, but I did end up valedictorian of my senior class at that school, and also got arrested and kicked out. That's a whole other story, but
What?
I did it.
What? Okay, hold on. Stop the presses. Okay. You just I have to scratch the itch. What happened? How did you get kicked out of? Were you flyering? Were you putting out flyers at the school and they kicked you out?
I was my senior year of high school. I was a party animal. So my friends cracked out. They're like, you're like 2 different people. I was like head of the National Honor Society, president, valedictorian of my senior class. And I also was like the crazy partier. And, we went on a choir trip and I got in trouble because we might have put the old school MD 2020s in Powerade bottles and alcohol on a school choir trip. And I went to a Christian high school, so I was out real quick. But where I come from, it's like, you're 15, you're like, all right, you can have some rum, So anyway,
Wow. Okay.
it was a big,
that was so
learning.
Unexpected. Thank you for that little tickle there. Let's bring it back to the moment you made a decision to change.
Yes.
You want to love your life. I don't feel I can step away right now from my business. It's not going to run on its own. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going through your head. But all of this started when you made a decision to change. So when you made that decision, you had some self introspection. How did you then show up for your team? Was there a change in your habits and your systems, a change in the way you spoke to yourself, to your people?
Sure.
Like, what happened next once you made the decision to change?
So next was really making a list of all the priorities, all the things that I wanted to make sure were part of my life, right? Because part of life by design is living with intention, right? Like we're designing it. So it's like, what do I want to have like a space for, time for, right? For myself to do this or that, to go on family vacations. And I remember I actually did a dreams list, right? We had Matthew Kelly had come and spoken at one of our events that fall of 2007, I believe it was. And that really shifted. I forgot that part. Like that shifted so much, and really thinking about what life could look like and really dreaming, getting clear on all the things that I wanted. But then, when Justin had mentioned, I was like, okay, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I achieve all that, do all that when like, if I'm not there, I don't feel like it's running. And so the next thing was really getting clear on my organizational structure, right? Justin had made a comment once in conversation, and I started thinking about this. And he said, can you set it up so that you're actually the owner and not the full-time operator, right? And he had made a comment like that to me in conversation, probably that same weekend that we were away. And so I started thinking about, okay, like what is my dream structure, right? Like how many people actually report to me? And, at that time I wanted, because I was super like, I wanted to control everything. I was like, I want my head of marketing to report to me. I want my head of recruitment to report. I want my head of, rep development to report to me. I want my sales manager to report to me. And so I had set up these different roles for my ideal organizational structure, which still had, I think, 4 or 5 people reporting to me. And then at a point, I was like, wait, my dream would be I have one person. I have an operator that reports to me. So I sat and really looked at what were the dream departments, right? How many people reported to me? And I knew that at one point I only wanted one. And really finding who was that right hand, who was that person that was going to help me grow and what types of characteristics that I needed. And so it was very tactical at that time of really knowing like, okay, what helps balance me? Like I needed someone who was fun and could make me laugh, but also got shit done, because sometimes I got too serious for myself. And so those were my best right hands, and really understanding like what support in order for me to feel good about that. Then building the systems and really having all the SOPs, like exactly how I wanted things done. And so that it was duplicatable. And it was amazing, to watch as I trained people and looked at things because, a business, I think, and even before I had kids, I used to talk about this from watching my friends have kids. It's kind of like having a baby, and you're like, I can't wait to have a baby. And then you have a baby and you don't sleep for months. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired,
Yes.
And there's different, stages where when you have a brand new infant, like I have a 4-month-old right now, like I do everything for her. Obviously I have to feed her, I have to wipe her butt, I have to bathe her, I have to do all the things. But like, my almost 5-year-old, he's like, I got this, Mom. And even my 2-year-old now, he's starting to get more independent, like now, like trying to do it himself. And I'm like, all right. And so there's those stages where it's like you have the infant, like, yes, when you start a business, like it's okay to be there 24/7, like in maybe for 6 to 12 months, maybe 18, but like to be there pouring in, but you shouldn't be doing it alone. Maybe the first couple months until you find that first right, person. But the goal is that you're doing it, you're growing up with people. They're watching you in action. They're learning what you do. They're able to emulate that. You're watching them, and growing that. And it was incredible because I remember by the fall of '08, my staff was like, get out of here, right? Like they knew what to do. They'd watch me do it. They sounded like me. It was hilarious to watch. But that it was amazing to see, because now I had like a teenager in my business, and my teenager was like, "Go away, mom," right? Like they didn't need me around, even though I'm
Yes.
like, I can't leave them forever because they're going to burn the house down or some crazy party. But but they like go, and then the business, once it's an adult stage, like you've had an operator there for a while, like they don't need you for business, they just need you for life and mentorship. And so I really like got a hold of that and thought about, like John Maxwell talks about, everything rises and falls on leadership. And I would say also everything rises and falls on training of your leaders. And so how equipped are they? And I took time to really develop them, for them to watch me, for us to work together, for me to watch them, so that when I left, and I took myself off the schedule starting in '08. I have not been on an office schedule since 2008. And so my whole office schedule was designed without me in it. Not to say I didn't work, but when I'm in, I was taking over someone's, and they were watching me, or I was watching them and giving feedback. And so it made it really easy, like seamless transitions when I would leave town, because they would keep operating completely normal. Just Cathy wasn't there, like over their shoulder, which they kind of appreciated sometimes, right? But I think that for any business owners out there, or top level executives, sometimes we go too fast training people, and then it feels like we always have to do that and we can never leave. And if we take it a little slower and be a little bit more intentional about developing our people and take the time to do it right, it's amazing. They'll blow you away with what they can do. And that was the last thing for me, was really designing a schedule that served me. And, what was the ideal schedule I was looking for? And it wasn't like overnight, I have this, right? But I knew, okay, here's what I want to do. Here are the areas where I need the most support first. And then my next hire, I want this support. And then my next hire, I need this support. And it was really incredible to watch that. And it's something that now I've taught for over 15 years to hundreds, probably thousands now.
I feel this is another inflection point for the audience. You could think back, audience, to, for those of you out there who are recovering perfectionists or highly functioning workaholics, you can take some inspiration from Cathy's story. It's a similar story, the one that I've lived. It's one where we pushed so hard to get to something that we thought was success, to find out once we got there that this was a little empty and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So Cathy intentionally made the decision to change. And then she decided to change into an owner rather than someone who is the tip of the spear doing everything. And somewhere in there, I'd love to just kind of unpack your relationship with the idea of being in control, because now you've been teaching this for 15 years and you've let go of control. And at the same time, you've never really had more. I mean, this is great. You do have control over your lifestyle and the way you choose to lead people. But can you talk a little bit about your relationship with the idea of control from January of 2008 forward? Just how has that relationship progressed with control?
It's just shifted what I control, right? So I love that, because I do like to be in control. And now I'm in control of everything. I get to decide when I go on vacation, what I do here, who gets selected, who doesn't. But it was just this shift of, I get to control how good, like how present I get to be with people, how much, attention I give them to help them develop. And so for those control freaks, I can't let go. Well, just refocus what you're controlling. I didn't have to control every day-to-day task. I got to control how well my people were trained, right? I didn't have to control the delivery, but I got to control more the creation and working more on the business, and giving myself space to do that, where the more you get to work on the business, the more you control the culture, the tempo, the systems, processes, that your people have, like maybe documentation, SOPs, and so through that work versus being in the business, I was able to create so much more and have even a larger sense of control. But I was controlling the schedule and the plans versus them controlling me, right? Like I didn't, as much as I thought I had control before, I had no control. It was sucking me in. I didn't get to do anything that I wanted to do because I wasn't doing, it wasn't an intentional process. And so I think that shifting to control, that I have time to work on the business, that I have time to go to a dance class on Tuesdays, that I have time to now, I have blocked time on Tuesday and Thursdays where I have a nanny comes and supports with the babies. so I can get some work done and have some set call times. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday are very fluid for me. And I plan on getting 2 or 3 hours of work. I've got 2 or 3 things I want to make sure I knock out those days. If I get to do more, I do. But if my son is like, wants to go to the park or play Legos or magnetic tiles, I'm going to do that because, they're only little for so long. And I want to be able to be present and enjoy them, while we continue building our businesses.
Awesome. The more that you work on the business, the more that you have the influence over the direction and the culture. And I love the way you frame that. Just again, audience out there, she went from in 2007, she felt that she had alienated all the people that loved her. She had some heavy grieving that she had not taken the time to grieve for her cousin yet. She felt that all the energy was kind of sapped out of her, and she felt like she kind of left people behind. And to make the conscious decision to change, and now we have this amazing human in front of us who was amazing then, now amazing in the way that she's helping others to overcome that same stuff that she had. I'm just super impressed, and I'm so grateful you shared the story with us. I have another question though that kind of came up. It's somewhere in here. You started a company, and it's called, I think it's Elevated You. And I think you said you started that with your husband. Can you track back, and what's the origin story of you and said husband? Do I know him? Is he a Cutco guy? I mean, who is this husband? Can you give us a little, what's the origin story on the husband?
I don't think that you met the husband, but
Yes.
He is Cutco, and I actually met him in '08 in Matt King's office.
Oh,
And,
wow.
We didn't become friends until 2014, and then we dated in 2016, and we were married in 2017. So this February will be 8 years that we're together. And let me tell you, that's a whole other thing. Like, find a person that pushes you to be at your best. Find a person that's your biggest cheerleader. Find a person that wants to see you unlock all of your potential. It is a game changer. I was married before, and I felt like I had to dim my light, that I was a little bit too much for the world. At least he made me feel like that sometimes. And even friends before who were like, you travel all the time, you do all this, like it's, no one's going to want to be with someone like that. No husband wants a wife who's a jet setter and doing all these things, like you're so busy all the time. And I was just pursuing my dreams. And, my husband, Spencer, is the most unbelievable support. It was because of him I wrote my book. It was because of him I launched 2 other businesses. It was because of him that I pursued and helped launch Go Abundance Women, and his belief in me. And even as confident as I'm like, I'm good. He's like, no, like he's like, you're all about maximizing potential, and you have so many gifts to give. And he's always encouraging me of like, what does the next level look like for you? What is the next level? And really helping support that. And so it's amazing.
Awesome.
Not everyone gets to have that. And I'm super blessed. But I have one of the most amazing partners, in business and life. We run the businesses together now.
Awesome.
He was working as an engineer for a while. And then, once we were married about 6 months, he was like, what do you think if I just left that and just helped you build? And so he's basically COO of our world. I'm CEO. I'm more the visionary, the planner. And he's like, let's get it done. And he's the executor. So it works out really beautifully for us.
I love your body language when you're talking about your spouse. This is so cool. It felt like I was talking to someone who had just been on their first date. Like you were giddy. And that's so cool. So cool to see. Yeah. I feel that way about Julie too. That's super cool. That's super cool. And also one more itch. These earrings are fabulous. You've got to check out the YouTube show, people. These earrings are fabulous. Can you give us a little background? Where did these earrings come from? Because these are absolutely amazing. They're long and flowing and free and radiant. What are we looking at here? These earrings.
These were a very special. I'm like trying to think. Little take home from. I had a really wonderful women's spiritual weekend, and the woman who was really proctoring everything for us, she had these, and I kept getting drawn to them. And I love big statement earrings, and it was a beautiful gift. She said, I'd love you to take them home with you. And I was like, what? She's like, my friend makes these. I'll get another pair made, and I got to bring them home. So these had been through some really beautiful journeys with people transitioning into the next level, up of them, right? Like continuing. That's a focus of mine is constant and never ending improvement, right? We always talked about that back in the day, the can I attitude, but how do we get to that next level? How do we open up the next level? And for me this year, and having my daughter, I have two boys and then the baby's a girl. It's been a beautiful year of transition and stepping into, I've had this all year, this like emergence like coming, and I feel this like powerful awakening in the feminine. And so I've been intentional about, just being more in my feminine, leaning into it. I think all growing up, and this is a whole other topic, but I'll say this really quick for any young ladies listening out there. I felt like the feminine energy was the weaker energy of the two. And I had to be in my masculine to succeed, to build, to do. And although it created a lot of good, it's so much easier flowing in the feminine, and being able to just be and attract and knowing how to ebb and flow, right? There's a time for the masculine energy, that's for sure. But yeah, my daughter has brought out this appreciation for the feminine energy, this beauty, like just getting to watch her, and has brought this desire for me to step more into that. And it's been really beautiful to honor that, to be open to that, because it was scary before to think, I'm like, oh, girls are just weak. And it's like, no, the feminine is so beautiful and so strong, and, is nurture and gives life. And like, freaking, I was like, we populate our world. Like,
that's right.
It comes through us. Like we get to like, grow these creatures. Like it's nuts to me. And so there's been this unbelievable appreciation for the feminine, this year. And I think that GoBundance has also been a beautiful, like little by little, that's just been opening up. I think in my mid-30s, I was craving to find women like me that were driven, because my friends were like, oh, nobody's going to want to be with someone like you, right? And I'm like, where are the other ladies like me who are, builders, drivers, like, love making an impact? And so we built this group that has been just so beautiful to watch. And I know you've gotten to meet some of our ladies, and just watching these women be in a place where they're supported, they're loved for who they are. We can sit all day by the pool and we're talking about what business, like partnerships, building acquisition, buyouts, and like, we love it. And other women might be like, oh, that's what you guys talk about. We're like, oh, that's so fun. But we love to live life. We love to do big things. And most of us are very focused on leaving a legacy and generational wealth for our families. And so it's really fun to be surrounded by like-minded people. And I think that in every journey, that's always been a big part, every step of my journey, right? Every decade's been a little bit different, but like having a community that lifts you up, that helps you be the best version of you versus trying to dim you. And whether it's a partnership that you're in, romantically, it's a business partnership, it's feeling that might keep you from being at your best. Find the circles that like just love all of you, right? That you're not too much. They're like, give me more, right? Like,
that's right.
And that has been a beautiful part of fully stepping into, I think, all of my gifts.
Yeah. I'm so happy to hear you share this, and the way you speak about it feels really authentic. And I think I found mine too with the Front Row Dads. Again, a lot of Cutco populated people on that team too. So it's really cool to see.
I love it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I want to keep speaking with you, but I know that we've got some time. We need to wrap up in a little while. So I'll ask you this. Is there any story that you'd like to share, or any question I haven't asked you that you'd like to answer, Cathy?
I think it would come around like what habits. And I know obviously we talk a lot about the most successful people. I mean, I don't know if you've had Hal on here, and people know Miracle Morning, whatever version that looks like for you. But I think it would be around like what were some of the habits that helped shift, right? Because here's workaholic, that I feel like there was a lot of like anxiety and stress, like pressure to perform, right? In my 20s and 30s. And the freedom to get rid of that pressure to perform versus a desire to be, and a desire to connect with self and your gifts and your, whatever source is for you, right? And connecting and being guided, like divinely guided, and how much more enjoyable the journey is,
Wow.
and
Okay.
I've really loved that. So I kind of asked and answered, but
No, that
what,
was great. That was great. That was great. No. You went from pressure to perform to the desire to be, and there were some habits around there. Are you saying the miracle morning was a part of that for you that helped you make that transition, Cathy?
my version of it, right? Like
Yes.
I have not done Hal's Miracle Morning, I think for more than a week in my life, but having, breathing in the morning, taking time
Okay.
to journal or pray, exercising. Sometimes it's first thing, sometimes it's midday, but a lot of these practices that help you like slow down for a minute, to pause or to be in nature and just listen, I think that even with prayer, like that's been something in the last couple of years that I've realized. Before I was praying, I was talking, and I wasn't listening. And a shift for me, because I'm like, I have a hard time meditating. It came to, well, prayer is when you're talking to God, and meditation is where you create space to listen. And I was like, oh, and that was something that really like hit me from a friend of mine. And I was like, just be quiet and listen. I'm like, all right, God, what do you want to say? Like, what do I need to do? And just slowing down. And it's just so amazing how much comes to you when we create space to listen and to be. So I think those, through exercise, walking in nature, reading books, taking time to just lay and listening to whether it's worship music or instrumental music, for 10 minutes, and just being still and breathing, and thinking about, okay, like what is wanting to come through right now, right? And being willing to listen to that, it's been just magical, the shifts that have happened, from leaning into that.
What is wanting to come through? And you heard it from Cathy, team. You heard her talk about breathing and journaling and prayer and even exercise in there. I don't think you can go wrong if you've got probably one or more of those things in your life every day. Something good is going to happen. I love that you have
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Thank you. That's pretty cool. Well, Cathy, where
Absolutely.
might we go to find out more about you, to follow you, learn with you, be with you? Where are the places that we can find you out there?
Yes. The best is my website, which is Cathy with a C, Cathy, at cathychristen.com. And my last name is like Chris, Chris, and then the number 10, Ten. So Cathy, or just cathychristen.com. Excuse me, I was giving you my email, but cathychristen.com. And then that has links to all my socials. So on Instagram, it's Cathy the Christen for my maiden name Vasquez. But if you go on my website, it has little links at the top to the socials. But I'm
Awesome.
not super on there all the time. I'm working on that. I'm really more present with the kids, but definitely, randomly we'll go on and put out content in there. So that'd be the
Awesome.
best place.
Awesome. Well, ding, ding, ding. You have made it to the lightning round here, Cathy. We're about to wrap things up. I've got three final questions for you today.
All
And
right,
the
let's do
first
it.
one, you talked about can I, constant never-ending improvement. So the first question is there one or maybe up to three, between 1 and 3 books that have had an impact on you that you might recommend to our
No.
audience?
The surrender experiment.
Yep.
The surrender experiment. That's been like in my youth, it was Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy, and just so many beautiful things there that really shifted me into intentionality and really utilizing my gifts. I think Maximum Achievement was a beautiful book. And a big thing that stood out there was the self-awareness piece, and not
Mhm.
just going through the motions, but again, being intentional. But in my adult years now, it would be the surrender experiment. And I was
I
just
want
told
to
recently, I
echo
haven't
that.
read Letting Go yet. Yeah.
I have not read that either, but the surrender experiment came with a workbook, and my wife and I did that together, and it was fantastic for us. So I want to echo what Cathy's saying, audience. Surrender experiment has had a major impact in my life as well, and that was, I think, that was in 2023. So
Yeah.
I love
Amazing.
that you shared that. Thank you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, let's go to music. Is there a certain genre or artist or song that just lights you up and just fills your bucket, Cathy?
Oh man, depends on the mood. In terms of like helping me start my day, it would be Bethel worship. Like I love the Bethel worship station, and so it's more like praise and worship. Um, but
Okay.
in terms of like let's get ready to party, it's probably Pitbull or salsa
Ah,
music. Salsa music always gets my juices flowing. But Pitbull takes me back to Miami, which is where I grew up. So it's always a fun party starter.
oddly enough, Pitbull and Christina Aguilera song is how we start the drive to school every morning.
Nice.
It's good stuff. Thank you. Okay, Cathy, last question. You have the last word. You're on the Eternal Optimist podcast. When I say Eternal Optimist, what does that mean to you?
Oh, for me, it's this like leaning into everything's going to be more than okay, knowing that everything is serving you and is working out for good all the time, no matter what you're going through. Knowing every experience can make you stronger. Every experience can teach you lessons. They're not always fun to go through, but if we choose to grow through them, it's incredible what we can create.